Hello aspirants, a very warm welcome to you all. My name is Madhu Sudhan Reddy and I'm the Faculty of Geography and Environment for you. So this is a humble attempt for me to give you one of the finest quality and going beyond the NCERTs and covering up the basics so that your basics should be a little stronger. Wherever required we'll be stressing there, and wherever not required we should just skip away those chapters and move ahead. All the books of NCERTs are not important, all the chapters are not important, only those chapters that are required you should know it, and rest of them cut the crap and put them into the dustbin, right? So here in this particular theme we shall be going ahead with the human geography, that is the India resource and development, right? In this particular theme, we shall be covering up some of the basics of the resources which are there in your class 10 and class 12 books. Class 10 and class 12. See, resources we have dealt in very detail, but now these resources which are listed here, we shall be covering up with respect to India. So resources basically we have done, there are minerals, mines, land, water, like that. In India also you have. But this is one chapter that is with respect to India, so we'll be confining ourselves to India itself. The chapter number 1, chapter number 2, 3, 4, these are the 4 chapters which are associated with resources from the class 10th chapter, from the class 10. In this chapter number 1, resource and development, here chapter number 2, it deals with forest as a resource, how forest is acting as a resource. So I'll go beyond the NCERT and I'll also teach you little more content that is required to understand the content in the NCERT, right? काफी basics दिया हुआ है in the class 10 and the same thing is also repeated in the class 12 as well. But data is outdated, no doubt. NCERTs are written long back. The data in which is 2011 census, the data is 2014. If you are going to write your exam in 25, 26, 27, this is not the data which is given in the books that you have to pick up. But the principle will be the same, the base will be the same. So here, forest as a resource we need to look into, water as a resource, land as a resource, agriculture in this particular area we have to look into in India. And chapter number 5 of class 12 and chapter number 6 of class 12, again these two chapters also deal with land as a resource, water as a resource, forest as a resource. And then here agriculture in India, this is what we need to look into, and more specifically we have to focus on the concept of agriculture here, because forest, land, all of these aspects can vary with respect to year and year. Fundamentals जो है वो हम cover करेंगे in a detailed manner. Now let's quickly start. Let me show you the chapters here, what exactly is written. So all of this at one single place. First thing, chapter number 2, directly we have to jump in because we have already seen what are resources, what are the classification of resources, renewable, non-renewable, cyclicable, non-cyclicable, conventional, non-conventional, कई सारे चीजें हमने पहले ही कवर कर चुके हैं. अब आते हैं for covering of the basics, that is forest and wildlife resources. In this, the fundamental aspects that we need to look into is flora and fauna that is associated in India. कौन सा ऐसे animals है जो सबसे unique है इंडिया के लिए, right? They are called as endemic, which are not found elsewhere. Likewise, how much forest is there in India? What is the changes of the forest that is there in India since 1950 से लेकर अब तक? Since 1952 till date, what are the changes in the forest? These changes in the forest also you need to know. Right, so here how tribals use this forest. Number 1, what is the animals which are found unique? There are few animals that are given, and also the classification of the forest. See, what is the forest and how many different types of forests are there? There are reserved forests, there are protected forests, there are also unclassed forests. So how do you define a forest first? This itself is a fundamental question. If you know the definition of the forest, then the problem here is 50% solved. See, there is no clear-cut definition of what is a forest. We have been trying since years together to come to a conclusion. For the first time since independence, what is a forest was defined in the year 2006 in a case called Godavarman case. Godavarman case, for the first time forest is defined. But how do you define a forest? If you say for a forest, should there be trees, or without trees also there are areas that are called as forests? Now, what are the classifications of the forest that you need to know, right? Basic content is given here, but I'll go beyond and I'll try to tell you what exactly is this forest as well as, right? So sacred groves भी दिया हुआ, we'll look into the sacred groves as well, right? So come back. First of all, you need to understand the definition of a forest. You tell me, what is the definition of a forest? Do we have a definition? Then which area is called as a forest? What are the classifications of the forest? These are some things that we need to look into. See, in India, in 2021, we recently had a report, okay, by the name of India State of Forest Report. Now, this India State of Forest report clearly tells few fundamental aspects, that our forest area we have increased. It is talking about forest area. But what is forest here? Forest in terms of definition, which means a forest in India is, if you take an area of 1 acre, 1 hectare. In a 1 hectare area, you need to have a tree cover of 10%. You take 1 hectare of area. In this, you should have the crown cover, that is tree, the crown in the sense this is the crown. If you have in this 1 hectare area, 10% of the area is covered with the trees, that is called as a forest, right? 1 hectare this is. So if in case you are living in a village, usually many of the farmers will have more than a hectare. In that, you go for the cultivations of almost 10% of the area to be covered with forests. 10% of the total area to be covered with the tree cover. So if 10% of the total area is to be covered with tree cover, you have went in for mango plantations, you have went in for papaya plantations, then the entire area will be covered with the forest, right? Or entire area will be covered with tree. Can you call that but your private area as a forest? Yes or no? So these are some fundamental questions. To deal with these questions, firstly, the definition of the forest is something which you need to know. Let's try to understand what is the definition of a forest. See, the definition of a forest was given with respect to the Conference of Parties Kyoto Protocol 9. In this, forest can be defined by 3 fundamental entities. The first fundamental entity is, it is your crown. What do you mean by crown? If suppose this is your tree, right? Crown is, this is the crown. This is the crown. The tree cover is considered to be crown, right? So tree crown 10 to 30% mean if you take a 1 hectare of area, in this minimum of 10% to 30% of area should be covered with crown. Then only you will call that area as a forest. Now India, what did it do? It has taken any tree which is of 6 meters of height and has a canopy. Okay, 6 meters of height, it has a good canopy, we'll call it as a tree, right? Next, come to point number 2. Minimum area of the stand, area between 0.5 to 1 hectare. India ने क्या लिया? इंडिया ने 1 हेक्टर का कंसिडरेशन लिया. इट सेड यू कैन टेक फ्रॉम 0.5 to 1 hectare. इंडिया सेड आई विल टेक 1 hectare. World said that Kyoto Protocol said you can take 10 to 30% of the canopy area. India said I'll take 10% of the area to be covered with canopy. Likewise, the third parameter was minimum height of the tree. Potential to reach a minimum height at maturity is in situ of 2 to 5 meters. It means to say that when do you call a particular tree as a plant? For that you need to know. Look here, these are the 3 points which are given by who? It is given by the COP. It is given by the COP. What is this COP? Conference of Parties. See, this Conference of Parties has given that these are the 3 standards which you can take into consideration while declaring a particular area as a forest. So it has given options. It has given a range. Range is that if you wanted to take either 2 meters also, you can also take 5 meters also. It is up to you, right? Second one, with respect to the crown cover, you can also take 10%, you can also take 30%. What does India do? India took 10% and it said 2 to 5 meters hai to I'll take 2 meters. Now this wants to say one thing, that in India, when does a plant become a tree? When does a plant can become a tree? See, as per the definitions of the books, if you have a tree which is of 2 meters height, right? which is of 2 meters height. Any plant which has a 2 meters of height, this will be called as tree. Right? India has take minimum height of the tree, potential to reach a minimum height at maturity in situ. That means within a particular place it has grown, and minimum, that is taking India as a minimum. It is not the maximum. Then only you will call it as a particular tree. Now this tree, if you have a geographical area, India has taken that 1 hectare, and like this you should have 10% of the tree cover or the crown cover. If it is, this area is covered, then you will call it as a forest. Now this can be a government owned land, it can be a private owned land, it can be your farm field, right? It can be anything, right? It can be called as a forest. Now within the forest there are different types of forest. Those different types of forest are that, one, you can call a particular forest as a very dense forest. You can also call a forest as moderately dense, open forest. And see, very dense forest मतलब जिसका canopy cover 70% से ज़्यादा है, means you take 1 hectare of area and in this your canopy is covered, the entire canopy cover is more than 70% plus. You'll call this particular area as a very dense forest. If you have a canopy cover of, let me show you, if you have a canopy cover of 40%, okay, here if you have 70% of the canopy cover density, you will call it as a very dense. Like that, moderately dense, it is somewhere around 40%. Up to 40% you will call this as moderately dense. Likewise, open forest is 10% to 40%. Scrubs are less than 10%. Non-forest area is not included as any of the forest cover. So let me again tell you here, it is 70% of the total area if it is covered with the tree or canopy cover who has a height of more than 2 meters and a width of 6 meters, right? This is called as your tree. And if it is having 70% of the area is covered with this canopy cover, it is called as a very dense forest. Then moderately forest, it is up to 40 to 70 ke beech mein. Likewise, 10 to 40 is considered to be your open forest. Scrub forest is less than 10%. So this is how the forests are divided, right? So a private land can be very dense forest, a government land can be very dense forest. So recently there was a current affairs article that said that you go to RBI, Reserve Bank of India in New Delhi. This Reserve Bank of India's complex, it is of more than 1 hectare. And in this, the tree cover is somewhere around 40%. So if this is declared as a forest area, or if it is declared as a forest, now can I say that your RBI, Reserve Bank of India's complex, comes under the moderately dense forest? Yes, Reserve Bank of India comes under the moderately dense forest. Now should we include these kind of areas under the rules and regulations of the forest department, or should we give the rules and regulations to govern by themselves? The RBI building itself will take care of it, or the RBI itself will take care of it. So these are some questions which are always there, that if suppose this is RBI's land, RBI wants to cut the tree, it can cut. RBI wants to grow the tree, it can grow. But suppose if RBI wants to cut a tree and the forest department comes and says you cannot cut a tree because I am declaring this area as a moderately dense forest. For a moderately dense forest area, if they wanted to cut a tree, you have to come and take my permission because I am the forest official, I'll give you permissions. So these are some conflicts that are there, right? So every now and then the rules of the forest keeps on changing. Every now and then the forest acts keep on changing. So there is no clear-cut definition. We are struggling to find out a universal definition and the classification of the forest. So these classifications of the forest can be further be divided into that multiple ways of divisions of the forests are there. Now look here. First, look at this particular slide. Let me read it for you. The forest cover is defined as all land more than 1 hectare in area with a tree canopy density of more than 10%, irrespective of the ownership. I told you, right? Irrespective of the ownership. That means in your own farm field, you go and plant a mango plantations, that will be called as a forest by the government itself. Okay? Now that depends on what kind of rules and regulations will apply to this private owned forests. Irrespective of the ownership, it is written. And legal status. Such land may not necessarily be a recorded forest area. It also includes orchards, bamboo, palm. Right? Orchards, bamboo, palm. कुछ भी हो सकता है. Next, the forest cover figures are divided as inside recorded forest area and outside recorded forest area. Those inside recorded forest area are basically natural forest and plantations of the forest department. Outside forest cover area means mango, orchids, coconuts, right? That means the entire forest area is divided as inside and outside. Inside means जहाँ पे naturally forest present है और forest department का हो. Not other one is the outside. Outside means it can be your own farm field, it can be someone else farm field. Orchids say, mangoes say, you go to Himachal Pradesh, everyone has mango plantation, everyone has apple plantations there. Now those apple plantations are also recorded as forest by the government. Right. Now what does the Forest Survey of India says? The Forest Survey of India report says that canopy density of 70% or more, it is called as very dense. Moderately is 40 to 70. Likewise, open forests are 10 to 40. Now, did we increase the forest cover? Yes, we have increased the forest cover. And how did we change the use of the land? That also you need to look into. So, use of the land in the sense, there are various ways in which you can use the land. You can change the usage of the land, right? So, for that, let me once show you the slides with respect to forest here. Number one, see, the forest cover of the country as per the India State of Forest report is 21.71%. What was the forest cover in the year 1970? 60s, it is 18% of the total area of geographical area of India was forest. Did we increase the forest or did we decrease the forest? See, we have increased the forest area. We have increased the forest area. No doubt we have increased the forest area. I know it might be surprising to you, since 1960 se lekar ab tak, did we increase the forest cover? Yes, we have increased the forest cover. Forest has wide definitions. Wide definitions means even the government of India can declare a particular land. Imagine this is a land. If you have a tree cover, you'll call it as a forest, right? You can also declare this particular area, maybe without any tree cover or so, as forest land. See, this forest land is different from forest cover. Okay? Forest land can be those lands which are declared by the government as this land belongs to forest. And forest cover is those which is having actual forest in it as per the definitions of the Kyoto Protocol and India's applications. Right? Right? So, India State of Forest report also says that which state has increased their forest cover. Which state has increased? The top 5 states in increase in the forest cover are: number 1, Andhra Pradesh; 2, Telangana. Look here, Odisha. This is the belt, Karnataka. These are the states which have increased their forest cover as compared to last survey. Right? That means they are adding more and more trees to these particular areas. Where the forest cover is decreased, of course, the forest cover is highly decreased in the northeastern area. Why? Zooming cultivation hota hai wahan par, shifting cultivation hota hai. We have already looked into, right? So these are some definitions that you are supposed to learn. Okay, come to your NCERT, what exactly is written there. And before that, one last slide which I wanted to show you here is forest cover सबसे कम कहाँ पर है और सबसे खराब कहाँ पर है in terms of where did the forest cover got reduced. The forest cover reduce you can clearly get to see in the northeastern area, entire northeast area plus Bengal. Why? Because the population is increasing and people are cutting down the forests and then they are going for agriculture in that. Zooming cultivation तो यहाँ पर होता ही है, shifting cultivation कहाँ जाता है, and the other one is your Punjab, right? So these are the areas where the forest cover got decreased to the maximum. And increase in the forest cover you get to see in the top 5 states that I have already shown you. Now come to your handout again. Here, this particular forest and wildlife as a resources, here there are, just a minute, few definitions. That is, the three definitions are: what is a reserved forest, what is a protected forest, and what is an unclassified forest, right? So let's once look into the definitions of this. Reserved forest: more than half of the total forest land has been declared reserved forest. Look here, understand the term. More than half of the forest land. I told you what is a forest land. Forest land can be a land which is owned by the forest department. It could be a house also in this, or this can also be a tree cover can be there. Irrespective of what is present there, if it belongs to the forest land, forest department ko if it is it is called as forest land. Of the total area that is belonging to the forest department, that is Department of the Forest, here more than half of the total forest land has been declared as reserved forest. Right? This is, if a particular area is declared as a reserved forest, it is reserved for creating a forest, or either there could have been a forest. It is reserved for creating a forest. Either there could have been a forest, or they might create a forest in that area. So reserved forest, irrespective of the presence of the forest there, you can still declare that forest land as a reserved forest, right? Reserved forests are regarded as the most valuable as far as the conservation for wildlife and wildlife resources, right? Come to the second category of the forest, that is your protected forest. What is this protected forest? See, these are those forests which are protected for the wildlife. Wildlife sanctuaries ho sakta hai, national parks it can be, right? Biosphere reserves it can be. So these kind of forests are considered to be reserved forest. Let me read the definitions. Almost 1/3 of the total forest land is declared as protected forest. Protected forest means this forest needs protection. Why it needs protection? You take a particular area, in this there could be animals. To protect animals, first of all we need to take care of the forest. Only then we can protect the animals, that is habitat protection. So is protected forest ke andar you can have a national park, you can have a wildlife sanctuary, or you can have a biosphere reserve. Anything it can be, right? This forest lands are protected from any further depletion, right? They wanted to protect them. Likewise, a forest can also be declared as unclassed forest. These are other forests and wetlands or wastelands belonging to the both government and private individuals and communities, right? Chalo, ye to government individuals hai, private individuals hai, communities hai, they are unclassified or unclassed forests. Basically, the Department of Forest looks the forest land into these three categories, right? So apart from this, what else do you need to know? You need to know what are the examples of sacred groves. यहाँ पे कुछ sacred groves लिखा है. What is this sacred groves? What is this community reserve? Let me give you the definition. See, sacred groves means these are plants or trees which are considered as goddesses, right? For example, most of the cities or most of the villages, there will be a banyan tree, and under the banyan tree Lord Hanuman temple will be there, right? Now the tree is given such kind of importance that is very sacred. You go and pray to that tree. You go to southern parts of India, Maharashtra, in every village there will be at least one tree which the people pray to that. Now that tree will become sacred. If someone goes to cut that, people will be even ready to take any kind of steps. That is called as sacred grove. Sacred groves are nothing but those plantations which have high religious importance. God and goddesses will be declared on the names of that. For example, the Basia latiflora, it is an example of it. Banyan tree is an example of this sacred grove. That is what is the definition which is given here. This is what you need to know. Apart from that, you also need to know the difference between that what is community and conservation reserve. See, community and conservation reserve is a Wildlife Protection Act ki zariya. It has been got into to protect a particular area. You also need to take the local people into account, right? So when you take the local governments into account, local people into account and try to protect a particular area, that becomes your community reserve. Right? Certain rights are given to the people, certain rights are also given to the forest, certain rights are also given to the animals, and in this cumulatively the protection of the land can be taken place. Now this is a brief introductions into the forest, what is a forest and how the forest divisions are done. Now there are some animals such as rhino. Where do you see this? In the Assam. Animals such as deer you see across the grasslands of India. Now there is a gharial animal which is given. This gharial is a freshwater species. It is found in the central part of India, that is in the Chambal river में मिलता है. This is gharial. Crocodile का brother and sister जैसा होता है, that, but the fundamental difference is that it will have the snout is very long and then it has a bulb. It has a bulb. This is how the mouth of the gharial is there. You have a bulb. This is bulged. But a crocodile has very broad mouth. A crocodile mouth will be very broad, right? But your gharials will have very short snout, right? Very short snout. And then you have a bulb. So this is also found in the Chambal river. Where do you find? Chambal. That is what is written in this entire chapter. Basically, you need to know the definition of the forest and how the forests are classified, right? If you know this, things will become very, very easy for you. Now come to the next classification of the resource, that is water as a resource you need to know, as well as agriculture, and before that land resource and agriculture. See, these are repeated chapters that are there, but when you look into the land as a resource, you need to know how the utilization of the land has changed from 1950s to till date, right? That is called as land use pattern. For that you need to know few definitions. What are these definitions? These definitions are nothing but the fundamentals of what is a forest, okay? What is forest, how this forest land is named. You already know the definitions of the forest, and how the land utilization have changed. That is what you need to know. Look here. Imagine this is your land. This is 100% of the entire land, and this is in the year 1960. This is in the year 2014. See, how did the land use has changed? Land use in the sense you can build a house in the particular place, or you can also build a dam there, you can also go for agriculture there. Are you using for the purpose of agriculture, or are you using it for the purpose of a dam, or are you using it for the purpose of a construction? This is called as land use. Land use are in various forms. So government of India, what did it do was it wants to understand the changes in the pattern of the land use, right? So broadly, for that you need to know the definitions also. What are these definitions? These definitions are: number one, you need to know what is a barren and wasteland, what is land put to non-agricultural use. Next, area under permanent pasture and grazing land क्या होता है, area under miscellaneous tree crops and groups, that is culturable wastelands क्या होता है, current fallow land क्या होता है, likewise fallow land other than current fallow land, नेट सोन एरिया. ये कुछ ऐसी डेफिनेशन है जो जरूर आपको जानना चाहिए व्हेन यू आर गोइंग फॉर द ह्यूमन ज्योग्राफी एनसीईआरटी. नाउ लेट्स ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट, बट बिफोर वी गो इनटू दीज एरियाज, लेट्स एक्सप्लोर how the land use pattern has changed. See, look here, back in the year 1960s to 61, 46.26 is the total area which is net sown, okay, which is total area which is under net sown area, right? And area under non-agricultural use, this is the area under the non-agricultural use, is 4.9%. That means 5% of the area was area under non-agricultural use. But let's try to understand, come to 2014 and 2015. Did we increase or decrease the total area, that is net sown area? The net sown area has decreased. 45.5% of the area is now, it is there, right? We have decreased. Whereas you look into the net area under non-agricultural use, again area under non-agricultural land has increased, right? Area under non-agricultural land has increased, and also area, that is net sown area, has decreased. But please come and look into this parameter, such as the 18.11%. This is the forest. This is forest. Now come to 2014 and 2015. Did we increase or decrease the forest area? Did we increase or decrease? This is today 23.3% of the total geographical land which is covered with forest. I am not talking about actual forest, it is forest. Forest means that 1 hectare of area, right? If you take that definitions and forest land, forest area all together, it is 23.3%. So we have increased the forest, right? Likewise, you look into the barren and unculturable wasteland. Barren and unculturable wasteland, it was 18.11%, but now we have reduced this area to 5.5%. To understand this particular land use pattern changes, you need to know the definitions of this particular term. So let's quickly go and learn the definitions here. First, forest क्या होता है? आपने तो सीख लिया, ठीक है? Forest is any area with a tree cover of 10% or more with a height of 2 meters, and then in a 1 hectare of area, that is called as a forest, right? This is the definition that is there, right? The area under actual forest cover is different from the area classified as a forest. See here, please try to understand this term. The area under actual forest is different from the area classified as a forest, right? Area classified as a forest. There are two different things. This area can have, let's say, forests or trees. This is actual forest. But if you have an area which is declared as a forest, it is declared as a forest, but you do not have any trees. There might be a home. This could be a tree. Now, this can also be declared as a forest. When it is declared as a forest, you can take that land to the forest department. The forest department takes that land, right? In simple terms, ऐसे मान के चलो, मैं आगे समझा दूंगा in detail how it goes into detail. Now, are different from classified as forest. See, this area can be classified as a forest, right? It can be classified. So you need to know area of actual forest is different from the area of under declaration of forest, right? So here this tries to tell us that the area classified as a forest is the area which the government has identified and demarcated for the forest growth. That means the area classified as a forest. If suppose this is the area classified as a forest, that means the government of India wants to convert this area into forest, right? So you got to understand the difference. Area of actual forest is different from area classified as a forest. Classified as a forest area में forest हो भी सकता है, ना भी हो सकता है, right? Now, here the land revenue records are consistent with the later definition. आज तक अपने पास जितने भी land revenue records है ना, वो इस definitions के साथ aligned है. Number 1, right? So यहाँ पे क्या है ना, instead you go back and look, what was the forest cover? What was the forest? It was 18.11%. Now, why did the forest grow here? 23.3%. Why? Because irrespective of the growth of the trees or the actual forest, the government have declared more and more land that is forest, matlab area under forest. That means they might have declared that particular land as area classified as forest. So इसीलिए हमें जो लगता है ना, एक्चुअल में ट्री कवर इंक्रीज नहीं हुआ, एक्चुअल में ट्री इंक्रीज नहीं हुआ, फिर भी अपना फॉरेस्ट इंक्रीज हुआ ऐसा लग सकता है. दिस इज व्हाट दे से. देयर मे बी एन इंक्रीज इन द एरिया क्लासिफाइड एज अ फॉरेस्ट category without any actual growth in the forest cover, right? Okay, this definition you are clear with. Next is barren and wetland, that is wastelands. Barren and wastelands means there is a definition to this. Let me step aside, please read this definition. The land which may be classified is classified as a wasteland such as barren hilly terrain, desert areas मान के चलो, ravines etc. normally cannot be bought under cultivation with the available technology, right? That means an area which cannot be cultivable, it will be called as barren and wasteland, right? An area which cannot be cultivable, मतलब agriculture purpose के लिए इस्तेमाल नहीं किया जा सकता. Third one, land put to non-agricultural use. What is this land put to non-agricultural use? See, earlier you might be going for the growth of the forest or else tree cover agricultural purpose के लिए, but due to construction of a road in this area or you wanted to build a railway in this part of the region, एक railway construct करना चाहते हो, so because of that this particular land is no longer in a position to be used for the agricultural purposes. So this is called as land put to non-agricultural use. Land acquisition जो होता है ना, basically it will convert an agricultural land into a non-agricultural land most of the times, be it construction of a dam, be it construction of a road, any projects, right? The developmental projects, they'll cut down the forest, and if that is done, so you'll call this as land put to non-agricultural uses, right? Be it in urban area, rural area, roads, railways, anything. Come to our next definition, that is area under permanent pastures and grazing lands. See, in most of the villages, when you go, if this is the village, right? Let's imagine this is the village. In and around villages, they say that ये गांव का ज़मीन है. This land belongs to village, and in that sometimes there are buffaloes that might be taken. And let's imagine this is the village area, which is, this land is considered to be area of a village, right? Now that can be used for various purposes, such as creating a pond, such as creating a grassland area so that buffaloes of that village can be used, taken there and made them feed, right? That is called as area under permanent and grazing lands. So in most of the villages you will have this kind of land. Let me read this definition. Most of this type of land is owned by the village panchayat or the government. Only a small portion of this land is privately owned. The land owned by the village panchayat comes under the common property and resources, right? मतलब गांव की जमीन है बोला जाता है, that can be called as area under permanent pastures, right? Irrespective of whether there are grasslands or not, they'll call it as area of permanent pastures and grazing lands. The next definition that you need to know is area under miscellaneous tree crops and groves. What is this miscellaneous tree crops and groves? कभी sacred grove हो सकता है. First, let me read the definition. I'll step aside. I also want you to read this. The land under orchards and fruits trees included in this category. Much of it is privately owned. So, आपकी खुद की ज़मीन है. जैसे you go to mountains, sometimes this flat mountain is converted into a mountain of this sort, and they do the terrace farming. Here they'll grow apple plants, right? Various plants can be grown. So this kind of area, which is called as area under miscellaneous tree crops, right? Area under miscellaneous tree crops or groves, right? Your own farmlands can be called. Now come to culturable wastelands. What is this culturable wasteland? Any land which is left fallow for more than 5 years, including in this category, it can be bought under cultivation after improving it through irrigation facilities. For example, you have this cultivable wastelands is, for example, this is a land which was earlier growing crops, but for 5 years you have kept it barren for various reasons. मतलब there's no one to take care of this, they got better opportunities, they went to city or so. Now this land will become wasteland, and it is called as culturable wastelands. मतलब इसके अंदर potential है, but फिर भी ये waste रखा गया. So again, when they have the potential to be bought back, so if you are giving irrigation to this, then this can again grow good crops. So you'll call culturable wastelands are those areas, an area which was earlier cultivated but left barren for 5 years, and this has the potential to get back the area into cultivable area, right? This is called as culturable wastelands. Now current fallow matlab, here you are leaving the agricultural land for 1 year or so, okay, without cultivation for 1 or more years. That is called as current fallow land. See, most of the farmers, if they are not having fertilizer mechanisms and so, what do is they leave that land for 6 months to 1 year, and they don't do agriculture, and that becomes a fallow land, right? Let me read the definition. This is the land which is left without cultivation for 1 or more than 1 agricultural year. Following is a cultural practice adopted for giving the land rest. The land recoups the lost fertility through the natural processes. So, but aajkal farmer is not going for this kind of practices. Rather, today we are having the NPK. We are having this NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus and potash. So with the availability of this nitrogen, phosphorus and potash, we are not keeping our the land fallow. Rather, this percentage of this land which was there in 1950s and 60s, that we have got it down. Okay. So you see, for example, you have a piece of land. You used to cultivate 2 crops in a year, and after 2 years, this land fertility is gone. Now you will keep this land vacant for 1 year, let's say. But with the availability of the fertilizers, you need not keep this vacant. Rather, you can go for 3 crops in a year, every year, without any fallow. You cannot keep, need not keep it this for the fallow. You can go for 3 crops a year, and this is what the Punjab farmers, Haryana farmers, they do. They give lot of fertilizers to it, NPK fertilizers, and they balance the soil fertility, and then they increase the productivity of this land. So we have actually got down this land by the innovation of NPK and Green Revolution. Okay, right? And last 2 definitions, that is fallow other than current fallow, right? This is a cultivable land which is left uncultivated for more than a year but less than 5 years. More than a year and less than 5 years, this is called as other than current fallow land. Fallow other than current fallow. Current fallow मतलब 1 साल, other than current fallow lands are nothing but 1 से 5 साल के बीच में. Last is net sown area, means in totality what is the total net sown area. Net sown area का calculations ऐसा होता है ना. For example, if you are taking in 1 year, you are taking 1 crop of this. Your nets, let's say this is 1 acre. Your net sown area will be 1 acre. But if you are taking 3 crops out of it, the net sown area will be 3 acres. Right? This is how the calculations of the net sown area is taken into consideration. Right? The physical extent of the land on which crops are sown and harvested is known as net sown area. For example, again let me remind it, if this is a piece of land, you have taken 1 crop and the size of this piece of land is 1 acre. Right? What is the net sown area? The net sown area is 1 acre. But in a same year, I am taking 3 crops from the same piece of land. What is my net sown area? It will be 3 acres. So मेरे पास जमीन increase हुआ क्या? Did my land increase, size increase? No. But the value of the net sown area increased. How? Because I am taking more number of crops. So this net sown area is always dependent upon the crops are sown and harvested. Now these are the definitions that you are supposed to know for this, right? So land का जो resource है ना, ऐसे calculate किया जाता है. In the due process, you see how the land has changed over a period of time. Changes in the share of the land use categories in India, 1950 से लेकर 51 and 2014 and 15. Forest area increase हुआ, 17 से लेकर हम 23 तक पहुंचा दिया. कैसे? By changing the definition of the forest. And in fact, the total tree cover which is there, we have also increased to an extent, but not the 17 से 23 जो increase हुआ ना, definitions have changed. Now, area under non-agricultural use, again land increased. That means we have gone for cultivation, land reduced, and urbanization increased. This is what you can say. Barren land हमने decrease किया, right? Why? NPK, fertilizers. Pastures land increase किया हमने. Area under miscellaneous tree cover, it got reduced. Culturable wasteland, you already know what is culturable wastelands. This is also reduced in 2014-15. Fallow other than current fallow land, that is 1 से लेकर 5 साल के बीच में जो land को vacant रखना, that also got reduced. Current fallow increased, current fallow land increased, and net sown area जो है हमने 41 से लेकर 45 तक पहुंचा दिया, because we came up with construction of dams. We went for dams, we went for irrigation facilities, drip irrigation. Even in those areas where cultivation is not possible, we are going for cultivation, right? Through irrigation facilities. So in totality, this is what you need to know with respect to land as a resource, right? Land as a resource, this is what you need to know. Now come to our next component, which is also one of the most important points, that is your agriculture के बारे में आप जानना चाहिए. Agriculture land use in India, that is common property resources. And here you also have another chapter by the name agriculture itself. So here in this agriculture, we have seen various different types of agricultures, but we need to understand what exactly is the cropping pattern. राइट ये क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न होता क्या है, what exactly is this, where do we have what kind of crops, and how to study for the UPSC. I'll go beyond the NCERT levels and I'll tell you how to approach it for the advanced understandings. Majorly prelims में questions आता है यहाँ पर, what are the major crops, rice is there, rice cultivation, wheat is there in India, where is wheat grown, where is rice grown, where is coffee grown, where is rubber grown. So you already have learned where India has good amount of rainfall and which crop needs what amount of rainfall. If you know this, then things will become easier for you. See, where is wheat grown and where is bajra grown, you need to know these fundamental aspects. This is wheat cultivation. See, wheat is a crop which requires 15 degrees Celsius maximum temperature. If you are giving beyond 15 degrees Celsius, your wheat will not grow well. Your wheat will not grow well. So in India, 15 degrees Celsius can only be available even the highest temperature should be 15. If it is going beyond 15 to 18, the crop productivity will come down. So you come to India and check where do you find the temperatures of this kind of temperatures where you're going to have the 15 degrees Celsius maximum temperature. So usually during the times of winter, this part of the region will have 15 degrees Celsius. So that's why wheat is grown only in northern part of India. In the south, no wheat, right? You need to understand where is maize, makka, paddy, right? Major grown areas of wheat. See here. I told you no, wheat can only be grown in this area. Why? Why is this wheat grown only in this area? Because maximum temperature क्या चाहिए? 15 degrees Celsius चाहिए. So ये जो temperature, this temperature is not available in any other part of India. Now can I say that this part of India is wheat eating? Wheat is eaten here, and this part of India is rice dominant. See, where have we started geography? We started geography with interior of the earth. Then we came up somewhere. Climate we learned about oceans, and now we are learning about crops. See, if you are thinking of any other optional other than geography, GS में बहुत कम स्कोर करने का पोटेंशियल होता है. You think of geography as an optional for you, and logical subject है. In a detailed manner, when you're going to study in the advanced classes, things will become very, very easy for you. All this will be peanuts. You link from history to other subject, from geography to even to polity also you can link, disaster management also you link, environment you link. So in prelims, it is quite easy for you to clear. So think on those who have enjoyed these classes. Please think on going for geography as an optional. And if so, you can get me in touch. You can get in touch with me 7382552230. And if you have enjoyed these classes, also do let me know how did you find these classes, right? So here, this is the rice growing area. This entire India eats rice. This is wheat India. This is rice India. Wheat and rice are two different entities, right? One is talking about rice, other is about wheat. So let me show you the crops, how to study them in a detailed manner. There are various different kinds of crops, but you need to understand the classification of the crops, how these crops are classified. Look here, the crops are classified in India based on the seasons of India, right? See, broadly, you can divide them into Kharif season, June, July, August, September, 4 months, then Rabi season, October, November, December, right? And January, February tak, Zayad season, April to June, right? In the Zayad season, you generally grow vegetables. Now let's divide India. This is northern part of India. This is southern part of India. You identify the difference. See, this is your India, right? In this India, here, you see, I told you this part of the region grows wheat and this part of the region grows rice. So, Kharif season, this is the month of June. This is the month of June. In the June month, you'll have high temperatures in the northern part of India also, southern part of India also. That's why rice, and here also you'll have rice grown, right? Rice is common, and in the north, cotton will be grown, and here maize will be grown, right? Here maize will be grown, here cotton will be grown, and June to September is the time period where you're going to get to see a good amount of rice grown in the northern part of India and also in the southern part of India. But come to the month of Rabi is the month of October. This is the time period where wheat is grown in the northern part of India. But come to the southern part of India, here rice is grown. That means, can I say rice all throughout the year rice is grown in the southern part of India? But come to northern part, rice in the June summer time period, wheat in the winter time period. Right? This is the fundamental difference. बाकी क्रॉप्स मोर और लेस सेम है यार. और ज़ैद सीजन जो है ना, दोनों जगह सेम क्रॉप्स ग्रो किया जा सकता है. जैसे वेजिटेबल्स है, फूड है, फॉडर है. हियर ऑल्सो वेजिटेबल्स, फूड, फॉडर, बट राइस इज ग्रोन ऑल थ्रू आउट अगर आपके पास पानी है. राइट? सो कॉटन, इट इज ग्रोन हियर ऑल्सो. Cotton is also grown in southern part in Maharashtra and southern regions, Andhra Pradesh region, Deccan Plateau region. You can also write here cotton as well. But maize, makka, it is grown. Tur dal is grown. And rice, maize, ragi, jowar, groundnut, these are the entities that can be grown. Right? Okay. See here. And look, this is the rice. Sorry, this is the wheat growing, wheat eating India, and this is the rice eating India. Right? So this is rice. This is wheat. Right? This is the fundamental entities that you need to know. For wheat culture, rice culture, celebrations will also be like that. When the wheat is harvested, you have a festival by the name Sankranti. Right? Rice harvesting festivals are also there. Festivals are also interlinked with this. Seasons ke saath. And here I would like to show you few other aspects. That is, come to the fundamental entities of how to approach your crops. What are you supposed to do with respect to crops? See here, there are multiple seasons, and what you need to do is, while reading NCERTs, for those people who are going for advanced full year courses or so, this is something which will help you to get additional marks. क्या करना चाहिए? You divide a map like this, or else a chart like this. Kharif, Rabi, Zaid season, what are the crops that are grown? Same, you divide and make a table. Now, this is one exercise which I want you to do. Right? It is crops. See here, rice is a crop. How much rainfall is required? How much temperature is required? It is, temperature is 20 to 22 degrees sowing time pe chahiye, and as it grows it needs increase in the temperature. Right? As it grows it needs increase in the temperature. Likewise, you need to understand one thing, that rain is 150 centimeters of rain is required. Soil, it can be loamy, silty, clayey. Right? If you know about these particular entities, then you can easily solve any question in the prelims. Rice ke liye rainfall kitna chahiye? 150. Let's go to wheat. How much rainfall is required? 40 to 75. Yaar, if wheat is required less, and what is the temperature? Maximum of 15 to 16 degrees Celsius. So that's why, even if you have limited rain during the months of winter, your rice crop can survive. Right? Even with limited rain, your rice crop can survive, but with limited rain, you cannot survive your rice. With limited rain, your wheat crop can survive. I have misspelled it as rice crop. If with limited rain, your wheat can survive, but rice cannot survive with the less water. Rice needs more water. Right? So इसीलिए rice is called as water intensive crop. Wheat is not that water intensive. It only needs 40 to 75 centimeters. Right? So come to corn. What does corn need? Corn need 27 degrees, 50 to 100 centimeters. That means as compared to rice, it is corn which is requiring less water. So if you do not have enough water, a farmer will go for maize. And if they are living in the northern part of India, then they will go for wheat. Come to jowar. These are those crops which are food crops, and they millets भी कहा जाता है. बाजरा, रागी. Bajra and ragi Again 40 to 50. Look at this, less than 100 centimeters. You have, do you remember the map? Where do you find 100 to 200 centimeters in the agriculture chapter that I have shown you? So these crops will be grown like that. So in totality, this is how you are supposed to understand. In the advanced classes, this is how I am going to teach you with respect to each crop there. Now here you need to have a broad idea about these crops. See, classification of the crops are some things that you need to know. Classification is cash crops. Cash crops क्या होता है? Cash crops are those crops which you do not eat directly. Rather, you do it for example, cotton is there. Cotton is used for the textile and mill industries. Bed banta hai, cloth banta hai. You are not eating them directly. So it is a cash crop. Jute se bags banta hai. Likewise, ropes banta hai. Sugarcane, you are not going to eat them directly. Sometimes juice and so, but majorly it is going for industry and वहाँ पे filter होकर you get sugar. This is also a cash crop, right? That is used in the industry. Likewise, tobacco is also cash crop. Now you need to know these are the cash crops. Sometimes question can directly come under, thus cash crops are water intensive. Yes, jute is water intensive. Cotton is not, right? Only sugarcane is water intensive. Tobacco is not, right? Like that, you look into groundnut. It is not water intensive, right? Rape seeds, linseed, castor seed, right? So these are those crops which are called cash crops. Now come to the plantation crops. What are these plantation crops? If you plant a tree once, if you plant a crop once, let's say this is the seedings that you have put, after an year or so, this will turn out to be a tree, and then every year it is going to give you fruits. You need not put in so much of hard work. You get fruits first year, second year, third year, like that. Mango cultivation, apple cultivation, like that. You can also go for tea, coffee, rubber. आपने एक बार पेड़ लगाने का, and then you get the crops. This is called as plantation crops. Plantation crops, example, tea cultivation, rubber cultivation, coffee cultivation. Likewise, here you need to understand the fundamental difference between coffee and tea. See, we have understood the difference between rice and wheat, right? Like that, in India as well, you will come across that here, see, majority of the tea is grown in the northeastern part. Majority of the coffee which is there, it is grown in the southern part. Coffee is famous in the southern part. This is coffee. And tea is famous in the northeast. Why, you know? Why? It is because, look here. Tea के लिए 150 से 300 centimeters and coffee के लिए 250 centimeters. Where do you find highest rainfall in India? Mawsynram, Cherrapunji, northeast, and also good amount of rainfall in the western Ghats, which I have already told you. Broad hills होता है कर्नाटका में, तो अच्छा rainfall होता है. Then come temperature देखो, it needs 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. Coffee needs 15 to 25, 26. So in India, you see this part of the region, Western Ghats होने के कारण यहाँ पे हिल एरिया है जो टेम्परेचर है 15 to 25 डिग्री सेल्सियस होता है. बट नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न रीजन इट इज लिटिल प्रेजेंट इन द tropical latitudes, and also summer winter concepts are there. So here the temperatures can go up to 30 degrees, and the height of these mountains are not as that. Here the steepness of the slopes are very high, and also the Western Ghats do not give that high temperatures. So comparatively यहाँ से लेकर यहाँ तक देखा तो यहाँ 30 डिग्रीज तक जा सकता है. So इसीलिए यहाँ पे ना tea cultivation can be done, and here coffee cultivation can be done. So the southern part of India is famous for coffee, and the northeastern part of India is famous for tea. ठीक है, चाय बागन टाइम जोन याद है, हमने लैटिट्यूड्स में पढ़ा था, राइट? एंड दिस इज वेरी गुड फॉर कॉफी. सो हियर you look into the temperatures will be very easy for you to understand. Coffee, how much? 15 to 26. Here 20 to 30. Likewise 150 to 300 centimeters more rainfall is required for tea, but 150 to 250 centimeters less rainfall is required. So that's why coffee is widely grown in southern part of India. Tea has good amount of temperatures, right? Okay, so इस तरीके से पढ़ना पड़ेगा आपको, and then go and look into the previous year questions. See, these previous year questions, once you look into, this is the question that, sir, the question was, consider the following states: Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Himachal Pradesh, Tripura. In how many of the above are generally known as tea producing states? Now you know, I told you that tea producing is done in one northeastern Tripura mein to hoga hi, right? Do you have in Himachal Pradesh? Yes, northern regions mein tea growing will be there. Tea is grown in Palanpur here, right? These are the two states where you will get to see good growth of the tea. And Andhra Pradesh, it is Araku, coffee is grown. Coffee is grown. Southern part, Kerala, coffee is grown dominantly, right? Kerala, coffee is grown, right? Now, the crop is subtropical in nature. A hard frost is injurious to health, and 50 to 100 centimeters होना चाहिए rainfall. A well drained soil and retaining moisture. कौन सा ऐसा crop के लिए चाहिए? Cotton, right? Cotton का conditions है ना 150 to 100 centimeters of rainfall. Tea needs how much? 250. Sugarcane 150. Jute 150. सबसे कम पानी किसको चाहिए? Cotton को चाहिए. Easy. This is how you are going to get good marks in the examinations. So these kind of exercises you need to know, right? And if you do not get this PDF, just drop me a message on 7382552230. I shall be sharing it with you on a personal note as well. So don't worry, right? Now come to water as a resource. See, we have seen one of the slide in the beginning in the class. Oceanography mein we have seen this slide. Water as a resource. How do you see water as a resource? See, water, we have so much of water on the earth, but it is only 2.5% of the total water is considered to be fresh. उनमें से पानी अलग अलग जरिया प्रेजेंट है, be it in the groundwater, be it in the lakes, be it in rivers, atmosphere, soil moisture, like that. Your water is there. How are you going to conserve this water and how are you going to use it as a resource? This is what you need to know. So this water as a resource, how broadly you are going to look this water in two different terms. One, water can be used for agriculture, water can be used for storage, groundwater replenishment, day-to-day activities, industrial purposes. So here, one thing, look here. This particular line is something which you need to know. This line divides the water into all the rivers which are there here. Those which are present, these rivers will go and drain into the Arabian Sea. Now this is called as the east-west water divide line. Water divide line, all those rivers which are present this west of the river, they are going to drain into the Arabian Sea. This is your Arabian Sea and this is your Bay of Bengal. So how do you see water as a resource? Water as a resource, you need to look for economic development. Okay? Cultivation of crops, industrial utilization, groundwater replenishment, future generations के लिए sustainable development. All these things we are taking into consideration. You can count n number of points. But here with this particular chapter, you need to know one thing. See, we have good enough amount of water, but climate change is changing the dynamics of that. For that, from the current affairs point of view, you need to know one thing. There is a program called interlinking of the river. And all the data that is given in your NCERTs is outdated, right? You have to do it from the current affairs itself. So that's why this is one component that you need to remember, which is not there in the NCERT, but still I'm going to tell you this. What is interlinking of a river project? See, the major aim of the interlinking of the river project is, one, there are areas in India, there is surplus amount of water, and all that water is simply rushing into the oceans. Especially surplus amount of water from the Godavari is draining into the oceans. Can we stop this water and divert into such an area where the availability of water is not there? Yes, we can do. That means water as a resource, we have to identify it, and surplus water need to be diverted to deficit areas. In this deficit area here, let's say there are enough water in the Ken River and Betwa River has less water. So Ken River is joined with Betwa and they wanted to give water to the Bundelkhand region, right? This is one example. Likewise, you see the main aim of this interlinking of the river project is to link the Ganga River with Godavari River. How are we going to link? we wanted to construct series of dams, and water from Ganga will be transferred to these dams. From there, the dams store the water. From there, canals. Again, we'll construct dams. This is how the plan was. But it is not that easy. For you, you have to look into, is this a positive step or is this a negative step? You look into the dimensions of interlinking of the rivers and let me know that is it good to go for interlinking of the rivers or not. For suppose if you are going for interlinking of rivers, the best advantage is that you wanted to connect the major waters, surplus water जो ocean में जा रहा है उसे रोक कर utilize करे, ताकि रायलसीमा जैसा regions को, especially the regions of Rayalaseema, the regions of rain shadow regions where you can give water through irrigation facilities, they can grow more crops. But in the due process, let's imagine you wanted to give water to the desert area and convert desert into a green area. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? When you look into the ecological scale, what happens to the monsoon climate में? What happens to the species जो lizard, which is a dry lizard which is living in the underground, would it be surviving itself when there is enough rainfall there? The species that are adapted to the desert since last thousands of years, will the species be surviving in a short span of 100 years if we are giving this water to this area? So there are some challenges, there are also advantages and there are disadvantages. So what I want you to do is, I want you to look into what is interlinking of river, and please look into the news articles of the last 1 year, at least top 5 articles dekho. Is it a good thing to link the rivers in India and give water to the entire India? And if so, we are doing so, what are the complications that you are going to get to see in the upcoming time period? You can try writing an answer also. NCERT ka piche questions hota hai, to you can try writing them. Right? This is one homework which I want you to do it from your end. Interlinking of rivers kya hai? The 16 rivers of this, they wanted to link with the peninsular rivers. Overall 31 rivers are there. They wanted to link all the rivers and give the water to the rest of the India. Right? So here, please go and look into the little current affairs, and that is what is all about your theme number 13. Sorry, theme number 14. In this particular chapter, we have learned a basic analysis of what is a forest and the definitions of the forest. Right? In the last theme, that is theme number 14, I will be covering up industries in India. Right? Thank you for giving me this opportunity. If you liked it, let me know. And if you want any improvements in this particular series also, please do let me know. Thank you, and I shall be seeing you in the next chapters.